Welcome to the Invest Like a Boss podcast.
I'm Sam Marks.
I'm Derek Spartz.
And I'm Johnny FD. We're self-made entrepreneurs who invest our own money and use modern technology to invest like a boss.
Join us each week for exclusive interviews with our network of modern investors, business owners, and multimillionaires to discover new ways to invest our hard-earned cash.
Welcome back, bosses. This is Sam Marks sitting in Barcelona. We are bringing you episode 260. I'm with Derek across the big pond, sitting in California. Derek, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Sam. This is the first day that it has not rained in California in 2 weeks, which is wild because we're not used to all this wet stuff going on here.
I read it in my newsfeed as well today. That's like bizarre rainy weather. And my parents were just out there and they were complaining about the rain, which is, it's unheard of. So how are you enjoying it? Because when it rains here in Barcelona, it's actually really nice because it's so different. You hear like the rain and it's calming in a way.
It was like that the first 2 or 3 days. And then when you get to like day 16, it's like, okay, I know what it's like to live in Seattle now. Oh
gosh. Derek was writing me before this episode, before we were connecting on it. And he was fighting traffic to get to his new office. And I was just thinking, man, it's so nice not to have a car and just walk everywhere as I'm doing in Barcelona. Never have to fight traffic.
As someone who just had to spend more money than he wanted to on a new car, I can attest to that. Unfortunately, that's not reality for me and not for most Americans either. So I guess I'm stuck with the car and driving. But I did see something interesting on the way, Sam. They're doing a lot of testing on these driverless vehicles, the Waymo, Uber, whatever, all these companies that are doing this. And I was like, you know what? I was kind of against all this before, but now I'm like, if they can drive even a tenth better than any person in LA, we have the worst drivers in America. I've seen some terrible ones in other countries, but in America, I'm going to say LA is the worst drivers. And if you can get everything to sync up some synonymous where they can all drive together, they're not looking at their phones, they're paying attention, like we would solve traffic overnight.
Well, also you free yourself up to do something more enjoyable than driving and thinking about the asshole in front of you and behind you.
I could be recording a podcast while I'm in traffic.
Literally. I had seen something years ago that said once we go to autonomous cars will be designed the way that carriages used to be back in the day, like a couple hundred years ago, where all the seats face each other in old carriages, remember out west. Yeah. So you could be you might be facing backwards, but in the front seat, lounged out, doing whatever you want to do. It's actually quite pleasant.
As much as I love to drive, I could get down with that now because I've sat in enough traffic for a lifetime, I think.
Why would anyone be against it? Who wants to?
At least in the city. Out in the country, do whatever you want to do. But if you're in the city, let's get it done. As much as Americans love their cars, there's a lot of hatred towards a certain sport. I was one of these. I'm slowly turning over. We're not big fans of soccer here in the U.S., which brings me to our guest that we're going to talk about, who actually created a whole new sport that is based on soccer, but it basically revs it up for us stupid Americans that don't have an attention span.
I wonder if there's been studies on it. I'm sure there has been why soccer is not that popular in the USA. But I think the cooler part of this episode is that we're going to dive into the world of creating a sport, which is a very rare thing. Have you ever what's the only sport that is being created since we've been adults? XFL that I can think of.
Yeah, or it's more like digitally based, like these, playing like video games type thing. But as far as like a physical whole new sport, I can't think of anything, or at least nothing that's really got on the radar and made some money, which is the goal of OmegaBall.
I guess XFL is not even really a new sport. It's just football with slightly altered rules.
Yeah, and some new technologies, which funny enough, NFL has actually picked up on and utilized. So it actually ended up being good for the sport of the NFL.
A while ago, it must have been like 5 or 10 years ago, maybe longer, there was like the lingerie football league, right? Where they had girls in lingerie playing. That was cool for like 3 months and then it fizzled.
Oh, you could not do that in 2022 or 2023, I should say now. Here
in Europe, I'm not sure if it's gotten to the States yet, but the major trend is called paddle. Are you familiar with that?
Is it like pickleball type thing?
I think it's the same thing.
Okay, yeah. Pickleball's really taken off here too.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
Tom Brady just invested in a team here too. They're trying to start a league for that as well.
There you go. I'm not sure if it's actually if that's a new sport or if it's just something that's always been around that is just growing in popularity.
Yeah, I think it's been around. It's just started taking off. I started seeing it on like TV shows and it's like there must be like some secret agenda of like big pickleball trying to put it out in the atmosphere.
But this OmegaBall, what we're going to be talking about this week, is a brand new sport, completely invented, augmented off the rule set of soccer, but much more dynamic. And Derek, I think this is going to be your first interview live in your new podcast studio, right?
Yeah, I was actually able to get our guest, Anthony Dittmann. He's the creator and founder of OmegaBall in studio. I believe he lives down in San Diego, but he was in town for the college football national championship game, which ended up being a dud of a game. It was 65-7. So maybe he has a point here that there is space for a new sport.
I'm looking forward to hearing this, especially the business side. I think of when I think of technology and I have an idea, I'm able to kind of run with that idea because I know how to build websites and build technology and things like that. But when it comes to sports, if I had an idea for a sport, the idea would immediately just die because I wouldn't have any idea about how to get that sport going. So many questions. I'm sure you've got some great ones lined up between yourself and the Patreon. So I'm looking forward to the interview.
Yeah, there's so much potential here between licensing deals, broadcast deals. We're going to break it down with Anthony. Once again, his name is Anthony Dittmann. He's the founder and creator of OmegaBall. Let's check out the interview. Back here on Invest Like a Boss, I got a special in-studio guest. I'm talking to Anthony Dittmann. He has founded a brand new sport, not just a brand new league, a whole new sport called OmegaBall. Anthony, thanks for coming in. Appreciate it.
Glad to be here on a rainy day in LA.
Yeah, pouring rain out here, which we're not used to. Anyways, let's get to what we're talking about. You're actually in town for the college football championship game. That kind of alludes to your background. So I want to hear about what got you to this point to creating a new sport and your experience in the sports industry.
Yeah, absolutely. Starting from the beginning quickly, I'm a native Californian, grew up in NorCal, went to San Diego State University, coming out of San Diego State, worked with the X Games on the event staff. Immediately from there, I worked at the San Diego Chargers for a year. When the off season came after summer, fall, and into winter, I just realized that probably wasn't right for me.
Sure.
But the off season at the NFL was pretty boring. Got a full-time job with the X Games. Went back to them. So I worked at the X Games for 15 years. So producing televised sporting events was the bulk of my career, and really laid an incredible foundation to sit in not only be out producing these events all over the world, which was fantastic, but to sit in the production meetings and really understand the philosophy behind what we're putting on air, why we're putting it on air, when we're putting it on air.
So you're essentially coming from the broadcast side of things. Is X Games ESPN, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, they actually just sold it, interestingly enough. But I was on the event side, but producing the event, it was such a huge event. We had 1,500 staff on it. People don't realize how big it was at that time. You had to sit in all these meetings and really decide what the schedule is to understand how we were going to produce the event on the ground. So I was director of operations for X Games and event director for events in Aspen, LA, Barcelona, and Tignes, France.
That is super awesome. So what got you to the point to say, you know what, I think I can do this and create a new sport? Did the idea for the sport come first, or did the idea to branch off on your own and create your own league?
No, this was all entirely by accident. So in 2013, I left X Games. In 2015, I started my own event production company, which is why we're in LA, because we're still helping ESPN on my day job, I'll call it. But OmegaBall started because I was working with an old colleague of mine from ESPN, went to the NFL Network. He was hired by Don Yee, who's Tom Brady's agent, to start an upstart American Football League. So this actually started from American football.
Okay.
In a conversation around that, I went to an investor to see if he was interested in investing in Jamie's League, another old colleague of mine from ESPN. And over the course of the conversation, he said, Anthony, I just don't think American football is the future sport in America. I think soccer is. So I hung up the phone with him and I said, I like soccer, but I'm not fanatical about it like I am college football or some of the other American sports. Why am I not fanatical about it? And the first response in my head was offsides. I hate offsides. So I just continued to think about it, and I thought maybe if the field was in the round and it wasn't a rectangle with that linear nature that
you could use the full field.
And I felt almost in my own naivete around the offsides rule, which I barely understand. I think nobody truly understands it to its core. I thought if it was just more circular motion, would it negate the offsides rule? So I drew the field in a circle. I put 2 goals on it, and it actually looked a little awkward around field with 2 goals. So maybe we add a 3rd goal, and it makes it feel a little bit more symmetrical as it relates to a circle. And I looked at it, and I was like, baseball, you can't play with 3 teams. American football, you can't play with 3 teams.
I can't think of any other sport where you play with 3 teams. So this is really interesting.
Yeah, soccer, you actually could play it with 3 teams.
So before we get into the specific rules of OmegaBall, what is kind of your 60-second elevator pitch to anyone that's never heard of this at all? You say, hey, I founded this sport, OmegaBall. What do you tell them? Yeah,
it's this fantastic, dynamic, action-packed new sport. It's 3 teams on the field, which really no other sport has. We've got 3 goals. You defend 1. You can score on 2. There's no offsides, right? We continued to refine. It's in the round. It's you can get 2 OmegaBall fields and 1 traditional soccer field purposely, so that we were taking advantage of the real estate in the most effective nature. There's no throw-ins. Nothing exciting ever happens from a throw-in, right? So it's all goal kicks or air quotes with corner kicks. It's 1 hour long. So a lot of the research today shows that kids 18 to 34 demo does not want to watch a 3.5 hour football game anymore.
Right.
They want to watch the highlights. So what we did was
they want to see the TikTok version.
Yeah, we created a game that's action packed. It's 10 times more scoring than traditional soccer, and it's in 1 hour. Also purposely for TV, because that's really easy to program. A 1 hour game really fits into a 24 hour slot easily. So we really took advantage of all these factors that we know are appealing, especially to a younger demographic, and inserted it into this game. And there's a vulture play, which I'll talk about what that is part of the 3-team dynamic, but that's going to go outside the 60 seconds. But the last thing I'll say is the gamification of this has got huge opportunity, whether it's wagering or video games. And lastly, we're growing both genders equally, men and women, from the beginning as it relates to opportunity and compensation. Both those genders are having equal time on the field, and we're really excited about that.
And I think from the American aspect of that, maybe women's soccer is more popular than men's soccer in the United States.
Yeah, the most viewed soccer game in the U.S. was the Japan-USA women's national team game.
Yeah, so I think there's definitely a market there. And I'm a huge American football fan. So I do see where you said Tom Brady's agent, and I'm sorry, I forget the other person you referenced, said that, you know, I don't see an American football system working. And we've seen that already. We had the XFL has failed twice now, supposedly coming back again. We'll see if the 3rd time around will happen. I think recently the AAF, COVID kind of killed that. Yeah. And it's just tough to go against someone like the NFL.
No, 100%. And it was Jamie who was hired by Tom Brady's agent to run that new league, which I think they would have had some success if they had gotten investment. They just didn't, because they had it organized a little differently. But certainly, to your point, there's been upstart leagues. I mean, we're going to find out in a few weeks about the XFL, so that'll be interesting.
Yeah, and as an American who loves his American football, and I know there's a lot of people like me out there that are just not that into soccer, I think the part that you said that, you know, there's not enough goal scoring, I'll tell you, the World Cup, they said this was the most goals, I think, scored ever in a World Cup, and it was still ridiculously low if you think about the action side of it. Yeah. So to make this more exciting is I think that's what you need.
Yeah, and that's what we gravitated to. Some games in the World Cup, there was a half of football that was played, of soccer, where there wasn't a shot on that goal.
Yeah, that's like...
Not even a shot.
In an NFL game, last night there was an NFL game on. The score was like 9-3 at halftime. And I go, this is so boring. And there was actually some scoring. But if I watched half a soccer game and I was just like, nothing's happened, I don't know. That's kind of a tune-out factor for me, at least. But maybe it's just our low attention spans in America.
Yeah, certainly that's the case. But that's what we're really trying to address. And to go back to the vulture play, which is an interesting dynamic, is... if Team A is trying to score on Team B, Team C can come in, steal the ball from Team A, and actually score that goal.
Right. So you can potentially score on 2 of the 3 goals. Obviously not your own, but the other 2 are fair game for any team.
Yeah, but there's this whole new dynamic where there's 2 teams advancing. So if the one of the teams that's advancing steals it from the other team and scores that goal, we call that a vulture play, which of course could be another proposition for gambling.
Sure.
And we've seen vulture defenses where Team A is in the lead, Team B is close to it. Team B is about to score on Team C's goal, but Team A defends Team C's goal because they don't want Team B to score. So
it's almost like a little mastermind game of so it's a lot of mental in there too. I like it.
So there's I think a lot of new sports may not have the emotional or mental or strategy applied to it. There's huge strategies in this game that don't even apply in regular soccer. So we're really excited about that.
And I think the sport's so new that you're going to find people kind of maybe figuring out a way to mentally figure out, different strategies to win and get competitive advantages. Like you're seeing in other sports, it just evolves and takes time. And I think that's really exciting to see a new sport where everyone just is on the same playing field essentially right now, and they have to figure it out.
Yeah, so the 2022 was the first time we actually played official games. We did 3 matches, and for the first 2 matches, we didn't even have teams that had played before.
Yeah.
The first match, obviously, they had. The second match, they had. The third match, finally, we had returning teams, and you could see the difference. It was pretty cool.
So before we get into specifics of what's going on in OmegaBall, why did you pick a sport that's based on a previous sport like soccer? You use the same size ball, I believe, same equipment, similar rules, but obviously the field is different. Why not just create an entire new sport no one's ever seen before?
Yeah, so, and I don't know if I clarified this before, but the field is round. Mm-hmm. So I don't think we mentioned that to the listeners, but like I said, it was an accident. We were talking about soccer, and it was why don't I love soccer? I like soccer. Why don't I love it? So that's where it gravitated to. I had no intention of starting a new sport.
Yeah,
this is total luck. If Jamie Heeman wasn't trying to start an upstart American Football League, and if I didn't go ask Bob Funk, who, and this is part of the story too, in Oklahoma City, if he wanted to invest in it, this never would have happened. It just never would have entered my mind. So it was definitely luck. It was happenstance. And to that point, Bob, who said he thinks American football is not the future, soccer is, he owns Energy FC, which is a USL team, which for our international listeners is the second tier to MLS in America. He owns a team. Of course, he thinks soccer's the future. He owns a team. I knew he owned a minor league hockey team. I didn't know he owned a minor league soccer team at the time. But that gave me the ability to go back to Bob a few weeks later. He thought I was crazy. He tried to talk me out of it.
Sure.
But ultimately, he's like, all right, Anthony, come down. I'll give you my facility. I'll give you my players. I'll give you my coaches. So I rolled into Oklahoma City. They had already drawn out the field. We got those USL players on the field. Pros. They've been playing for decades, and they loved it.
That's cool.
They came off sweating. They were chatting about it. They had a great time. So that was our first testament, and that was way back in 2020 when that happened.
Cool. That's a good test to know that you have a product that could potentially work. So I have to assume that anyone that has stumbled onto OmegaBall is already a fan of soccer. So how do you plan on bringing in fans that just aren't into soccer at all in the first place?
Well, we were a little cautious about bringing in soccer fans. We thought that there may be some haters.
Oh, so maybe some opposite reactions. Yeah. Like, what is this game?
Yeah, like why are you killing the beautiful game?
Sure.
And we don't want to kill the beautiful game. We don't want to cannibalize it.
I view this as a supplemental.
Yeah,
to soccer.
It's additive. We've always felt that way. Certainly to the entire ecosystem of soccer and the athletes that are out there that just want to play. All that being said, we've seen a ton of interest from people that don't even like sports.
Okay.
So we've been at the events we've been to, people have come up to us and they're like, I don't even like to watch sports, but I would watch this.
Yeah.
So
is there any recurring theme that you've heard from people saying why they would like it and they're not necessarily sports fans?
It's kind of can't look away.
Sure.
Sports, like American football, if you analyze how much play is actually during the hour of gameplay, it's like there's actually more replays and officials.
I've noticed that a lot when I've been listening to radio, football on the radio, because I've been busy driving around. And I'm like, there's a commercial every like 3 minutes. I don't notice it as much on TV, but on radio, I was like, wow, there's so many commercials.
The breaks and then the replays for fouls.
That too.
Is pretty extensive. So we are nonstop, can't look away action because the ball returns like basketball.
Is the clock consistently running? The clock never stops?
The clock counts down from 13 minutes. It's 3 13-minute periods. Okay. The teams rotate each period. The clock goes consistently, barring some gross need for a timeout. It stops for the last 2 minutes of the game just so there's not time wasting for the winner. But other than that, it goes, and the ball comes back in like basketball. So in traditional soccer, if you score, there's celebration. It goes back out to the center circle. It's like 90 seconds. The goalkeeper pushes the ball right back out after a score.
Right, no time.
Yeah, so it's 5 seconds. It's so action-packed that there's no reason to get distracted.
I like that a lot. So I went to a scrimmage of OmegaBall, I guess a couple months ago, and I will say I think it's the only sport I've ever seen where if your seats get worse, the view gets better, because the way the field is laid out, I went to the top of the stands and I go, I want to sit up here and watch it because I can see everything going on the higher up you are. It's very interesting.
Yeah, for the TV productions that we've been doing, the drone shot is incredible.
Yeah, you had the drone flying around too. I go, that's got to look awesome on TV.
Yeah, we just had one of our drone shots hit 1 million views on TikTok, so we're really excited about that.
Yeah, it's really interesting. We'll put the links to the website to check it out. But the layout of the field is, you know what? There's no other fields that are circles either. And I'm thinking any other sport that I can really think of.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably something, and there's a sport that has 4 teams. It's I can't even remember the name of it. So there's some versions of this, but we've really honed in on this. And in fact, after we got pretty deep into this, because I did not play soccer. I played in 2nd and 3rd grade, right? So,
yeah, same.
But it turns out they actually do soccer drills with 3 teams.
Okay.
Yeah, all the teams do it, and it's like their favorite drill.
Yeah.
But being away from soccer, I think if I had played soccer for 15 years, I probably would not have thought of this. I would have been too ingrained in what it is. But it turns out there's a soccer drill where they use 3 teams.
Very cool. You brought it up a minute ago that one of the USL leagues, which is kind of second tier in the US, at least for professional teams, MLS would be the top tier. I've been to an MLS match. So fun. The fans are just insane. It was a LAFC game, and they're just chanting and cheering the whole time. And I think if you could lock in those fans, you have such potential. But have you got any feedback from these leagues kind of saying, get out of here. We don't want you messing with our league. Kind of all of the NFL doing what they've done to these other leagues in the past.
Yeah, nothing specific. We haven't truly engaged them. Just under the assumption and the knowledge that their players are under contract for the year, essentially.
It's got to be exclusive to any type of sport. I'm sure that's deeply locked in.
So we can't share their players. They're actively, whether it's MLS, USL, or some of the independent leagues that are out there, there's dozens. They're trying to grow U.S. soccer. They're why get involved with this distraction, and we understand that.
Yep.
We did reach out to an independent league, and that was their response. And at first, I was like, "Damn it! I want somebody to give me a testimonial that this is a good idea."
Yeah.
But their response is, "Look, we're trying to grow soccer."
I think at the stage you're in, it makes sense for them to kind of just leave it alone for now.
Yeah.
But I think you guys can drop enough attention where they can see the benefit of it. How have players actually found the sport?
A lot of players have found it on FS2. So our first airing was on FS2, which I believe also is some sort of record, if you will, that the first actual game ever played of OmegaBall was on a national broadcast.
That's pretty cool.
I can't think of any other sport that's had that, but the 3-team pitch really intrigued them. That FS2 airing was incredible. We got so much response. Also internationally, we've gotten contacted from over a dozen countries that want to officially embrace OmegaBall. Some really rich countries like Spain.
Sure.
Like we're about to sign with Spain. We're about to sign with Uruguay to...
That's what I was just about to ask you. Are you exclusively in the U.S. right now in an expansion plan? So Spain, Uruguay.
Yeah. And Brazil, we're talking to Argentina and some other countries in Europe. So,
and are these broadcast deals or are these?
No, these are people that saw the broadcast on FS2, and then we were on ESPN2 in August. So the same thing happened again. But it's kids over there that have seen it. So the younger demographic is really gravitating to this, and the coaches of the younger demographic see this and go, my kids would like to play this. So that's been hugely beneficial. It's just those broadcasts that we've been on. Of course, we have our website, and we did just sign a contract with USSSA, which is United States Specialty Sports Association. They're the biggest multi-sport recreational organizer in the U.S.
Okay.
So they also saw it on FS2. One of their executives was on the treadmill in the gym, saw it up on the screen, contacted us.
These guys have great jobs. They can just go watch sports all day and be like, oh, that's a good idea. I should reach out to these guys.
Exactly. They were studying.
Which you already have that job, I guess.
It was research. So we signed that deal, and they're going to offer it to their 4 million members across the U.S. So our first USSSA event, which is recreational, competitive youth kids, we didn't even really... My core group is trying to grow the pro level, where we hope to have an actual league in 2024. USSSA came in. They're like, we'll run this for you. And that'll be a revenue generator for us immediately this year.
And this is such an easy barrier to entry for kids, especially like lower income kids. Because I know I'm originally from Minnesota. A lot of people played hockey. you're spending 10, 20 grand a year on your kid to play hockey. Like, you got to get the gear. You're going to tournaments every weekend. American football, the same thing. You need
Lacrosse,
all that stuff.
You need gear.
Yeah. Soccer, you need a good pair of cleats,
yeah.
and then they'll have a goal in the grass. It seems pretty easy.
Yeah, for us, we need the third goal,
Yeah.
but it is a lot easier, the barrier to entry and the size of the team. We didn't talk about this. There's 5 players on each team.
Yep.
One's a goalie, 4 in the field. That's a lot easier to assemble a team of 5 rather than a team of 11.
Totally makes sense. Let's talk about the business of sports, because I don't think it's a topic we've touched too deeply on the podcast. So I'm glad you're here, especially with your background in all these major events that you've worked in as well. So I do have a question that, since OmegaBall is a spin on a sport that already exists, have you had any issues with like copyrights, patents? The materials that you've used to create this game already exist. Is there any kind of pushback on that? Any kind of worry about someone stealing the OmegaBall ideas?
No, and certainly a scenario where you've seen the XFL and the NFL could occur. We feel like we planted our flag pretty well already, not only in the U.S., but around the world. OmegaBall is trademarked. We're about to go through the Madrid protocol for all the international countries. We've already initiated that, so we're ahead of the game there. But the size of the field, if you go much smaller, it's going to be too small. And you can't go any bigger because we've already expanded it to the max size as it relates to the width of a normal soccer field.
Yeah, because I'm assuming a soccer field is twice as long as it is wide.
A little bit. It's somewhere. It's similar. A little bit longer, but nonetheless, for you to manipulate, maybe you can make a hexagon, which I think there is an outfit in Europe.
Let me write that down. Hexaball.
Hexaball. There you go. Yeah. I mean, certainly it could happen, but everyone's contacted us. They really like what we're doing. We're also really trying to get kids off the couch. We're really excited about that. We're really excited about growing both genders equally, and we're really excited down the line. We're going to be free to attend for a few years, but ultimately, if you have a paid ticket to come to an OmegaBall event and we're 1 hour long, you can watch a men's game and a women's game under the same ticket, which is great for sons and daughters of families that want to go to an event. You get to watch both genders play, and we're excited about that.
I think that's really cool, and not to be the guy that's like, kids are so lazy, blah, 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 but it's like, all I see is kids are sitting on their phones, playing video games, doing things like that. Like, it seems like not as many kids are active anymore. Like, even when I was a kid, you just go outside and you're gone for the day. Like, that doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, we're at the amount of touches that happen in OmegaBall is really intriguing to the younger demographic. They love it. Even the goalies love it, because in regular soccer you could daydream half the game as a goalie. You cannot daydream in OmegaBall. I spent
a lot of time out in left field playing baseball, not paying attention.
Yeah, me too. Counting the blades of grass.
Yep. So you had alluded that there is some income opportunities in OmegaBall. Are you generating any income yet? And what are some of the main sources of income, and how is that produced?
Sure. So we do have, I'll call it a licensing deal for lack of a better term. It's a little bit different than that. So we've got the USSSA component, which will help give us revenue from the recreational and competitive youth perspective. We're doing that with the international countries as well. So we'll see that occurring. Other than that, we're growing the Pro League, which we're hoping to get a broadcast deal. Like I said, we've already been on Fox and ESPN. We're still talking to those guys, but ultimately a broadcast deal to support the Pro League. Obviously, sponsorship comes along with that. The 3 events that we did last year, we got some sponsorship, but we're obviously still not in the black at this point.
Sure. And no one expects you to be either. Is there a full season laid out that you could pitch to a broadcast company and say, hey, we got a 10-game season, whatever it may be, or is it still just a lot of exhibitions? And
so this last year was essentially exhibitions, but they were tournaments. So we'd actually have teams playing through, escalating into the championship game, which was great. This year we've got it a little bit more organized. We're probably going to do about a tournament a month from April till October. Our first event is going to be April 7 and 8 in Omaha, Nebraska, tied into the USSSA event. So USSSA is going to have the kids playing, and then we'll be the headliner, if you will, to that event with some of our pro games. And that's cool. That's the template. So we kind of create a festival atmosphere at this and some homegrown audience to watch the pros play. And then the national championship is already scheduled in Melbourne, Florida on the Space Coast. And that will be December 8th and through the 10th. So we've kind of bookended our season, our year, if you will. and we're just filling in between. So we'll have about 10 events this year, which we don't have to be live at this point.
Yeah.
So the broadcaster could take the content and put it on air. 2024, we'd like to have more of a season developed. So that's our plan at that point with consistent teams, because we talked about wagering a little bit, but in order to have that component, which is very interesting in OmegaBall, we have to have consistent teams with consistent coaches and consistent players, and we're just not there yet, but we will.
So what do you have to have happen in 2023 to really say, we have a chance at making this work and scaling it a lot further? Is there one major hurdle that you need to cross?
Investment.
You need money.
Yeah, we're
Come on, bosses, step it up here.
Yeah, we're out right now in a seed round for $2.5 million. So that would definitely help push this along, particularly with the income that we'll get from the USSSA deal. And then we'll just continue. We're going to be very smart about this. Again, taking our backgrounds into account, which Jamie Heeman, who was involved in this initial conversation, is actually on our board, and he's our strategic advisor. He was VP of Business Affairs at the NFL Network for 8 years after ESPN. So we got the USL guys, Energy FC, who have run soccer teams on our staff, and then of course my background. So we feel like we're set up well to run very efficiently and effectively. Once we get to the pro league, we're going to be very regionalized. We're not hopping on airplanes to play our first games. We'll hop on airplanes to play the championship, but it'll be very community based, going into regions, going into states, going into a championships.
Divisions of sort, I guess, and then at the end, the national one, they can all come together in a central location.
Yeah, exactly. But
that makes sense.
That whole time we'll be gathering content, and it's really up to a broadcaster to tell us when do we want to be on in the summertime when there's not many other sports. Sure, we'll do that.
Yeah, and in the broadcasting sense of things, is it still make sense to be on a traditional network like an ESPN, a Fox Sports, something of that nature, or does it make sense to go on YouTube, a streaming platform, maybe a Twitch? I don't know, something like that. Are you seeing any potentials that maybe that's the way to go?
Yeah, we want to be on both. Just like ESPN is doing. Fox is the only one that doesn't have a streamer. They have Tubi, but it's an indirect relationship. But just like ESPN's on ESPN Plus and on the national broadcast system that they're on, we want to be on both those scenarios, and we'll probably be exclusive to a national broadcaster as soon as we sign that deal. But as it relates to streaming, we'll go far and wide. And a lot of the international streamers that aren't even in the U.S. have reached out to us too. So we're working with a streamer in the UK and a couple other countries as well. I
stream all the sports I watch. I don't have any traditional cable packages or anything like that. Yeah. And I feel like anybody my age or younger, they don't even know how to get a cable package. They have no interest in it.
Yeah. So. The sponsors are, I shouldn't say the sponsors, and maybe some of the agencies, yada, 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 are a little archaic from that perspective. Sure. They feel, and there's some value to this, but if you're not big enough to be on a broadcaster, are you not big enough?
Sure.
You know? So
that seems like such an old mindset, but it is still
it's
still
ingrained
still around,
in there.
So you had mentioned wagering a couple times, and I wanted one of our Patreons actually had a question. AJ, he wanted to know, with legal sports betting going mainstream and growing rapidly in the United States, are you targeting an entrance into the market? You said some of the rules are already catered towards that. Any criteria that you need to set up for these people essentially in Vegas? I enjoy sports betting, just a little bit of money, a lot on football. So I really like the kind of analytics of it and digging. It's kind of like digging into the stats and seeing trends and things. I really enjoy that. So what particular rules are maybe potentially in place for wagering on this?
Yeah, nothing. Like if somebody wanted to put this up, they could. I would say they should be cautious about it, because you don't want to come out of the gate and fail with bad data. So, and they also put themselves at risk for getting pounded by that bad data.
Right,
like maybe somebody knows
Get
something
yourself
they
in
don't.
trouble quick.
Yeah. Both sides can happen to the bettor and the bettee, but nonetheless, once we have the data to back it up, we'll be in that space, and there's no application that we have to fill out. If Caesars wants to put a lineup on OmegaBall April 7th and 8th in Omaha, Nebraska, they could.
So there's really no regulation to stop these gambling sites from doing this, as far as your end saying you can't shut it down, anything like that.
No, we
and
would,
I don't know why you would, but
yeah, I mean, the answer to that is we would both parties would want to employ a third party.
Yep.
Like we can't set the lines, and Caesars likely shouldn't set the lines. There's usually a third party involved. So to do this officially and to do it smartly and safely, a third party would have to analyze the data and post those lines.
Yes, this is going crazy. It was really surprised me here in California. We had a couple measures to pass legalized gambling, and it wasn't even close where they didn't pass. But I think it was very confusing the way they worded it, because I think we're up to over half of the states in the U.S. now do allow some sort of legalized gambling.
Yeah, I think those two propositions cannibalized each other.
Yeah,
the negative
it's a
campaigns,
very localized issue that people want to, if you're not in California, but it was very odd the way they pitched it.
But the politics are the same everywhere, where they have pitted negative campaigns against the two propositions that were trying to gain the ownership of gambling. And I think those negative campaigns canceled each other out.
Well, let's talk about hopefully a potentially safer bet, your actual investment in OmegaBall. Can you tell us what you've raised so far for OmegaBall, and what's the amount you're looking for in, I think this is your C round, you said?
Yeah, we had an initial investment of $200,000, and right now we're out to market in a seed round with convertible notes for $2.5 million.
Are you actively seeking new investors, or are you really keeping it in-house to people that know sports and can potentially help you with that? Or some people just want a hands-off person, say, write me a check, or you trust us to do our job? Yeah,
I think I'd lean towards the latter, but if somebody had a good idea, we'd certainly be open to it. Good ideas are good ideas. I'm not... My ego isn't so large that I'm going to be like, sure, that wasn't my idea, we're not doing it. But we are taking money domestically. We're not in a position to take international money, but we will take in a certain chunk, certainly to achieve that $2.5 million target.
What are the minimums to jump in on this? And do you have to be an accredited investor?
You don't have to be an accredited investor, and it would be $250,000 minimum.
Okay, great. So do you have any kind of information on the investment specifics that we can share with our bosses?
Yeah, they can email me and I can pass along the deck. It's anthony@omegaball.com.
Cool. I will put that in the show notes. And as far as if maybe they're not ready to invest yet, but they want to learn more about OmegaBall, where can people go? Obviously, OmegaBall.com has a lot of great content. Anywhere else you want to send listeners to? Yeah,
the YouTube channel is great. TikTok has been crushing it. It's been so cool to see those numbers blow
just
up.
At OmegaBall?
Yep. Just do a search for OmegaBall, it'll come up. But it is at OmegaBall, and the YouTube channel is great. All of our content is on the YouTube channel, and most of our content is on the website. But you'll see a lot more information about the core of OmegaBall, obviously on OmegaBall.com.
Awesome. I'm excited to see this grow and see where things go from here. OmegaBall, if you're just getting in the beginning, it's going to be a cool story, I think, like 5 years from now, to saying, I talked to that guy that actually started that whole sport, and now look at it. So I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Derek. Appreciate it.
Thanks for coming on the show, Anthony.
All right, Derek, I heard you attended an OmegaBall game. It's a match, or is it a game?
This is where I get confused too, because let's call it a match. Yeah. I did. It was down. Where was it? Oh, it was at the Dignity Health Sports Center, which was where the Chargers, the Los Angeles Chargers, used to play before the new amazing SoFi Stadium was finished. So it's also home of the LA Galaxy MLS soccer team. So I think that venue holds like 15 to 20,000 people. But they were actually doing the OmegaBall event on it's a whole campus. There's like multiple fields, all types of things. So they were on some outside stands. I was glad I went in person, because the field it's different. When you're picturing something, I don't know, I guess you're just picturing a soccer field, a rectangular field. But when you see it in the round, it's so much different. So I went in the stands at the bottom, and you can see I didn't know what was going on. I don't even know the rules of regular soccer. I've gone to soccer games, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on.
Hands.
Yeah, exactly. Don't touch it. That's all I know. And for some reason, when the clock hits 0, the game keeps going, and I don't know why. I'm like, the clock's at 0, it should be done. But anyways.
Got it. That is a weird one. I still don't understand. Yeah.
It's like the refs just, let's go a few more minutes, and I'll call it when I feel like it. But the field is very cool, because I think I mentioned in the interview, the further you go up in the air, the better view you have, because it's almost like a helicopter or drone shot where you get an aerial view of the field, and you get to see everything that's going on. Because there is 3 goals, essentially when there's 2 goals, you can keep an eye on one or the other. But when there's 3, you really got to pay attention and see like where you're focusing your attention on, because these teams can score on 2 of the 3 goals. So you're not forced to look at one or the other. It's like, where is this person going? And it's a guessing game that really keeps you locked in and focused. So I thought that was really cool about it.
Years ago, as the internet was emerging, I was thinking this is death of sports. Like sports aren't going to be around in 20 years because a phone is way more entertaining than sitting down and watching a 2-hour Major League Baseball game. But that's not actually what's happened, right? Sports are still growing in popularity and demand, but it does.
The highest rated TV shows in the United States, the top 10 is all NFL games every week.
So I think it's the action games, right? It's got to be like hockey, basketball, football, I think are all growing in popularity. Baseball, I'm not sure.
Baseball used to be America's game, and it's very not anymore. I know the in-game attendance is way down. I'm not sure about the broadcast rights because you still see these players getting, 9-digit contracts. So I'm not sure how the revenue side is looking, but I know as far as in-game attendance, baseball is way down.
Yeah. Well, I got to believe in the future, trends like this will continue where like the action-packed stuff will continue to grow in popularity. Sports betting will continue to grow in popularity because it brings excitement to an otherwise maybe mediocrely appealing game to watch. But it seems like OmegaBall is taking what is so popular around the rest of the world and adding a much more like dynamic spin to it, which is also great for like youth participation as well.
Yeah, and like I said, it's super easy. All you need if you're a kid is to get a pair of cleats and you can play. So
yeah,
I don't know if you know it, Sam, but some of these sports now, I know someone that has a teenage daughter who plays volleyball here in Southern California. I want to say 2 to 3 weekends a month. They have to go to tournaments, and I'm not just saying let's go 20 minutes down the road to a gym. This is drive 2 hours and get there at like 7 a.m. And then the parent just has to pay to even watch their kid play. And then you're not watching 1 or 2 games and then you got the rest of your Sunday free. You're there till like 6 p.m. You're there like 12 hours. It's a whole thing. Sometimes you even have to get hotels. Like, I don't understand how, if I would have had to pitch that to my parents when I was in high school, hey, we're just going to Vegas for the weekend and you got to get us a hotel and we're going to be there the whole weekend. And, maybe we should fly there. That would have never happened.
Yeah, it becomes like a school tuition trying to fund your kids' sporting events.
And what if your kid's not even very good? I was like, what am I wasting my money on this?
Yeah, and imagine like playing ice hockey in most of the U.S. where it's like there's not ice.
Right? Yeah, you're in Florida and you're freezing your ass off in an arena.
Yeah. Or poor parents have to go watch their kids play baseball and they just watch their kids in the outfield picking their butt and biting their teeth.
Oh, that's ice
for 3 hours.
Left field, right field, center field, it didn't matter. I was looking up at this guy and like, oh, there's a ball coming.
Yeah. I think that's where I got my nervous habit of picking my nails that still can persist throughout my adult life. It was all because of baseball. Too boring.
But this is 1 hour. They're running around the whole time, and then you're done. I think it's a good play, and you have to lock the kids in. There's no one like us, Sam, that's over 30 and is like, hey, I think I want to check out a new sport. It's a tougher sell.
Maybe pickleball, an easier version
there you go.
of something else. Like tennis, great sport, but too technical. If you don't play for a year, like you lose it all.
Yeah.
But paddleball, you never have to have swung a tennis racket or had any training at all. You can pick up a paddleball or pickleball, and you can go out and be competitive in like a day.
Totally. There's like 60-year-olds that play it. Like I got little courts right outside by the beach by me, and there's old guys just getting after it in there.
Getting after it. Oh, by the way, I did figure out a sport that has a circle field, if you want to call it.
Did you? Okay, I couldn't think of any offhand.
Wrestling.
Oh, okay. Like old school, like high school, college wrestling. Yeah.
That's the only one I could think of, though.
But how much money has that made? Like nothing. I don't think.
I think it's only for high school, college, and the Olympics. I don't think there's any money at all to be made.
Yeah. So maybe another way that I should have asked him more on, he had kind of subtly mentioned it, is like video games, like creating, like the FIFA game from Electronic Arts is huge, like multi-billion-dollar game. So I think the video game aspect of this, being in a circle, you can score on any goals, I think would be really cool. Or like a VR type game for this would be cool too.
Oh, yeah. I feel like it would be intense. You know that game that's like the old school, like the first video game ever that has the little bars on the left and right and the balls going in between.
Yeah, it's just like
but
Pong or something, isn't it? Pong, something.
Yeah, pretty much Pong. It's like constant action. I think that's what like the video game of OmegaBall would be like. It'd just be constant, like bing, 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 bing.
And like if you turned your head away for a second, like you're just gonna lose. So you're forced to stay in it.
Yeah. The other two teams have collaborated against you.
And I was worried that he might be shying away from the wagering aspect, but he sounds like Anthony is like, whenever Vegas is ready, like he's ready for that. He's all in on the wagering part of it.
That would be pretty exciting. The business side of this and how it gets picked up is so interesting because the connection to broadcast media has got to be critical.
Right.
Because that to me would be the hardest part. It's like, okay, go create a game in your backyard. Got it. Maybe you can get some people locally to play it. Maybe you can get some school teams to play it and stuff. But like getting it to the next level where you have to engage in professional athletes and then get some type of broadcast media to pick it up, that to me is a massive gap that I wouldn't know how to bridge. But it seems like he has all the connections in the industry that he kind of went into this knowing, basically with a roadmap that seems to have worked out. I'm surprised with how far they've gotten on what seems to be, relatively little funding. I think it's all just leveraging contacts and experience that they already have.
Yeah, and I didn't realize that there's like, I guess, licensing deals per se, that even if you just want to play that game in another country, there's organizations that will monetize that essentially for you. That like if you're playing OmegaBall or any other sport for that matter, there's some kind of organization that's regulating that and making sure that it's played properly and that whatever revenue is coming from that. I didn't even like think that just to set up a little high school game or whatever, like they owe some kind of funds for that sport.
Yeah. What about like kickball? When I used to live back in the States, that was like the big thing for adults to do like after work. It was like, oh, we have a co-ed kickball thing. Is that like does someone make a commission on that?
There's gotta be something out there, or the manufacturers of actual kickballs. Maybe it's like a royalty deal, something like that.
Man, if you can get like a trademark or a copyright on something that becomes like globally recognized, it's like the best asset in the world.
Yeah, it's just like easy passive income, sweet royalty deal.
Yeah,
like something like Mr. Wonderful would like go crazy over on Shark Tank, which I think this would be perfect for Shark Tank. They should have like an on location Shark Tank where they like get on the field and pitch it.
Okay, well, that was a cool interview, man. I think lining up more interesting opportunities like this. I mean, that was so far out. Like creating a sport to me is massively interesting. You see like board games and card games occasionally come out. And they're so cool. And you're like, damn, that was a good idea. Like what was the one with Cards Against Humanity?
Yeah, that was huge for a while. Yeah.
When that came out, like how much money was made off that?
That was a good point. Yeah. I think I mentioned this with Johnny in last week's episode that last year was kind of a really big personal episode, especially, Johnny had the whole Ukraine thing that took up a lot of time. And I'm really excited to kind of get some off the wall ideas here, because the market was going up for a while. Everything was good. It was like, do real estate, do index funds, do whatever it may be. It was an easy episode to do. But I think us jumping more out of the box for these new ideas to do something different is kind of a goal for 2023. And I'm excited. There's so many topics. And I just get pitched so many just in my email that most of them I'm just like are garbage. But sometimes you're like, oh, that's something different. I don't want to talk about real estate every week, This
has spun some ideas. It'll be interesting to follow along the OmegaBall story and figure out, we can do a follow-up episode and figure out once there's more money coming in, all the different revenue streams and how much the potential upside could be.
Yeah. And obviously the seed round that he's looking for, the investment is a pretty high level. And we knew that, most new bosses are out of this, but I thought the story was interesting enough to follow along that if you're into it, later down the road, I'm sure there will be other seed rounds that are probably more accessible to a lot of our bosses. But if this is something that interests you at the level it is right now, you can check out OmegaBall.com, and Anthony's email I will put in the show notes. So you can email him directly. He's got a whole pitch kit that you can check out and learn more about OmegaBall.
Have you checked out the TikTok yet?
I haven't. I should, because TikTok, I started a TikTok just for like fun to post stuff, but I'm trying not to watch videos because every time I see someone watching TikTok, they're on it for an hour, and I can't suck my life away on it.
Exactly the reason I haven't downloaded TikTok yet. I struggle enough keeping Instagram off my phone. I have it for 3 months and then I delete it for 5 months and then I have it back. But as soon as it's back on my phone, it's like 3 hours a day.
Yeah, Instagram's probably like a top 3 app in my usage if you look at it. But even that though, the little experience I've gone on TikTok, I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to be on this like way more than Instagram.
Yeah.
But with that, it is a new year. Sam, I haven't talked to you yet in 2023. So there's some exciting announcements on the show. Recently, we have started a Discord on the Patreon. If you're a Patreon member, at the $5 level, you'll continue to get the benefits that you already have. We've been posting at least once a week, if not 2-3 times a week between myself, Sam, and Johnny. Lots of good content in there. Sam and I recorded some bonus episodes. You can listen to Sam's not so fun second mushroom trip. And a new feature, if you're at the $10 level or above, is our Discord, which it's just launched. There's some people in there. We've been talking. I like it because it gives us a chance just to be more casual with people that have quick questions. Whereas now, you might have to email us and that email might get lost wherever. You can just send us a direct message and either myself, Sam, or Johnny are going to get back to you right away. It's just a kind of a quick, cool chat function of it and a way for other bosses to share their ideas. We found with Patreon that it's tough to share things on your end. We can share as much as we want, but as far as you wanting to share stuff with us, it was really difficult. And I think this Discord helps solve that.
I agree. It's been a great addition to 2023. Thanks for setting it up there.
I'm excited to see where it goes. The community is still pretty small, but seeing other bosses on there and other ideas, these ideas that we get from you guys are stuff that just between the three of us, it wouldn't even cross our minds. And I'm open to all this cool stuff. If someone would have said, hey, I know someone that created a new sport, I would have been all ears. So, or a new game, like Sam just said, if there's people like that out there that hit us up on the Discord and we'll investigate it as much as possible.
You can also stay up to date with all of Derek's new purchases, like his new car and all the maintenance headaches that he's going to endure.
They're catching up because the bills are stacking up. I had my investments just kept going up and up and up. I'd be like, oh, things are great. Now I'm like, whoo, I got some real bills now.
All right, Derek. Well, good interview with Anthony from OmegaBall. I thought it was really interesting, and not sure if I'm going to pick up learn how to kick a soccer ball anytime soon. But I love the concept, and I like learning about how the business side of things can shape up with creating a new sport.
Same, and I'm off to Vegas, so maybe I'll talk to some people at MGM and see if I can get them on the board.
See if you can get some free tickets from Anthony to give out to some of maybe the local games or something.
Yeah, let's do that. Keep an eye on Boss Lounge and Patreon. I'll give preference to Patreons. If you guys want some tickets, I'll reach out to Anthony, and we'll make that happen for sure.
All right, man. Catch all of you guys next week.
Thanks for listening to the Invest Like a Boss podcast. Join our mailing list at investlikeaboss.com to get exclusive access to our insider investment portfolios and our private members forum.
If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe on iTunes or your favorite podcast app. Tell your friends and leave us a review in the iTunes store. It helps more than you know. See you guys next week.